Picture this. Your kid comes home from school with a report card showing straight A's in math, excellent grades across the board. You're proud, of course. But then they ask you a simple question about money. Something like, "Dad, why do some people get richer even when they spend money?" And you realize you don't really have a good answer. You didn't learn this stuff in school either. Nobody taught you the actual mechanics of how wealthy people think about money. And honestly, most parents don't teach their kids either because they never learned it themselves. They're just repeating the patterns they grew up with, passing down the same financial confusion to the next generation. But what if that cycle could end right now? What if you knew exactly what rich parents actually teach their kids about money? The stuff that schools will never cover in a curriculum? Well, I'm here to pull back the curtain on that. My name is Alex, and I've spent years studying how wealthy people actually manage their finances, and more importantly, what they teach their children about money from an early age. If you're someone who wants to break generational financial patterns and maybe actually give your kids a real advantage in life, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you understand money differently. Now let me tell you something that might shock you. The wealthiest families in the world aren't wealthy because they earn more money than everyone else. Sure, some of them do, but that's not the actual secret. The real secret is that they understand something fundamental about money that poor and middle-class families completely miss. And they teach this to their kids starting when they're incredibly young, like 5 or 6 years old. It starts with something that sounds simple but changes everything. Rich parents teach their kids that money is a tool, not a reward. Most parents tell their kids, if you do your chores, you get an allowance. This creates an association where money is something you get in exchange for labor. And while that's true in one sense, it's incomplete. Wealthy parents go deeper. They teach their kids that money is actually a tool that creates options and opportunities. When you understand that money is fundamentally a tool for building options, not just a paycheck you get for doing work, your entire relationship with money shifts. This leads to the second secret that rich parents teach. They teach their kids to think about money in terms of opportunity cost. Most kids don't learn this until they're teenagers, if they learn it at all. But wealthy parents start this conversation early. When a kid wants to buy a toy, a rich parent might ask, if you spend your money on that toy, what else won't you be able to do with that money? This simple question trains the child's brain to automatically calculate whether something is worth it. Not just whether they can afford it, but whether that particular purchase is the best use of their resources. This is foundational because it creates what I call decision intentionality. Instead of spending money reactively, wealthy people make deliberate choices about what their money does. The third secret is that rich parents teach their kids about income streams from an incredibly young age. Not just one income stream, but multiple ones. A wealthy family's kid might have income from an allowance, sure, but also from doing extra chores for neighbors, maybe selling something online, perhaps helping with a family business. The kid learns early that you don't have to depend on one employer or one source of income. You can create multiple streams. This is a completely different money mindset than what average parents teach, which is essentially get good grades, go to college, get a job, stay at that job for 40 years, retire. It's a single income stream mentality, and it's honestly terrifying from a financial security perspective. Think about what happens when you have only one income stream and something goes wrong. Your employer lays you off, your industry changes, the economy tanks, suddenly you have zero income. But when a kid grows up understanding that there are multiple ways to generate money, they feel inherently more secure. They understand that if one stream dries up, there are others. This isn't just psychological, by the way. It's practical. A kid who starts a small business selling items online at age 12 is building real income that's not dependent on their parents. They're learning how pricing works, how marketing works, how to serve customers. By the time they're an adult, they have entrepreneurship. Real skills that most people never develop. So, here's the fourth secret, and this one is actually kind of wild. Rich parents teach their kids about taxation and how to minimize it legally. I know, sounds boring, but stick with me. Most parents never discuss taxes with their kids. They just see money taken out of their paycheck and accept it. But wealthy parents have conversations with their kids about how wealth is taxed, how different types of income are taxed differently, and how sophisticated people structure their finances to keep more of what they earn. This doesn't mean tax evasion. It means understanding that capital gains are taxed differently than ordinary income. That using retirement accounts properly can save thousands of dollars annually, that there's a massive difference between being employed and being self-employed from a tax perspective. When a kid grows up with this knowledge, they naturally make different financial choices as adults. Like, imagine two people each make $100,000 per year. One is employed as a regular employee, the other is self-employed or owns a business. The self-employed person understands they can deduct business expenses, set up retirement accounts with higher contribution limits, potentially take advantage of different tax strategies. By the time April comes around, one person might owe significantly more in taxes than the other, even though they earned the same amount. Wealthy parents teach their kids to think about this stuff early so that when they're making career decisions or business decisions, they already understand the tax implications. It's actually incredible how much money wealthy people save simply by understanding the tax code. And most people just throw their hands up and say taxes are too complicated, but they're not. You just need someone to explain them, and that's exactly what rich parents do for their kids. The fifth secret that rich parents teach is about debt. But not in the way you might think. They don't teach their kids to avoid debt entirely. They teach them to understand the difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is debt you take on to buy something that increases in value or generates income. A mortgage to buy a property that appreciates. A business loan to start an enterprise. Bad debt is debt you take on to buy things that decrease in value or don't generate income. Credit card debt to buy clothes or electronics. A car loan for a depreciating asset. Wealthy people use debt strategically. They use it as a tool to multiply their money. Average people are terrified of debt and avoid it altogether, or they use it carelessly for things that don't add value. There's a middle ground that wealthy people navigate expertly, and they teach this to their kids. You see, a lot of people have this scarcity mindset around debt. They think all debt is bad, when the reality is that debt is just a tool. If you can borrow money at 3% interest and invest it somewhere that returns 8%, you've made a 5% spread. That's how wealthy people think about debt. They do math with it. They're not emotional about it. They don't see it as something shameful. They see it as a financial instrument. So when a rich kid grows up and they're thinking about going to college, they do a calculation. What's the cost of the education? What's the expected salary increase? What are the interest rates? What's the payback timeline? They make an informed decision instead of just taking on debt with thinking about it. The sixth secret is about understanding assets versus liabilities. Rich parents teach their kids this distinction incredibly young. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. A house is not necessarily an asset if you're paying a mortgage and property taxes but not renting it out. But a rental property is definitely an asset if the rental income exceeds your expenses. This distinction fundamentally changes how you think about spending. When you're about to buy a car, you ask yourself, is this an asset or a liability? If it's a liability that's going to drain your wealth, maybe you reconsider. Rich kids grow up automatically filtering purchases through this lens. Here's the seventh secret. Rich parents teach their kids that spending less than you earn is non-negotiable. It sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but most people don't actually live this way. They earn money, they spend it, and then they wonder where it all went. Wealthy parents are ruthless about this concept. They teach their kids that the gap between what you earn and what you spend is where wealth building happens. That gap is not something that happens accidentally. It's something you engineer intentionally. The earlier a kid learns to engineer that gap in their own life, the more dramatically their financial trajectory changes. The eighth secret that rich parents teach is about compounding and time. Like, they explain to their kids what compound interest actually is, and they show them real examples. If you invest $100 a month starting at age 15 versus age 25, the difference by age 65 is absolutely staggering. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars difference. This is why wealthy parents start teaching about investing ridiculously early. They want their kids to understand that time is their biggest advantage when they're young. Every year you wait is a year of compound growth you can never get back. Think about it mathematically for a second. If you start investing $100 a month at age 15, earning 8% annually, by age 65, you'll have around $1.8 million. But if you wait until age 25 to start investing the me amount, you'll only have around $700,000 by age 65. That 10-year delay costs you over $1 million. That's not hyperbole. That's just math. And wealthy parents make sure their kids understand this viscerally. They don't just tell them it's important. They show them the actual numbers. They let their kids plug numbers into investment calculators and see for themselves how dramatically time affects wealth building. This knowledge shapes how a kid thinks for the rest of their life. They become obsessed with starting early because they understand the math. The ninth secret is about negotiation. Rich parents teach their kids that everything is negotiable. Your salary is negotiable. Your utility bills are negotiable. Your insurance rates are negotiable. The price you pay for something at a store is sometimes negotiable. Most people go through life accepting whatever offer is presented to them. Wealthy people push back. They ask questions. They try to negotiate better terms. And they teach their kids that this is a normal, expected part of how business works. This mindset difference alone probably accounts for hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional wealth over a lifetime. The 10th secret is about understanding business fundamentals. Rich parents teach their kids how businesses actually work. They talk about profit margins, overhead, customer acquisition costs, retention, all of that stuff. Some wealthy parents even involve their kids in family businesses starting when they're young. By the time these kids are teenagers, they understand more about business than most MBA students. When you understand business fundamentals, you can evaluate opportunities differently. You can spot patterns of what makes certain businesses successful and others fail. Like imagine you're looking at two coffee shops. One sells coffee at $5 per cup and has very high overhead and labor costs. The other sells coffee at the same price, but has figured out how to operate more efficiently. To lie, the first might make $1,000 per month profit. The second might make $5,000. Same revenue, wildly different profit. Wealthy kids grow up understanding these dynamics. They learn that it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter and structuring systems that generate profit. So when they grow up and they're evaluating job opportunities or business opportunities, they're already thinking in terms of margins, efficiency, scalability. They understand that a small business with good margins is worth way more than a big business with thin margins. Most people never learn this stuff. The 11th secret is about giving and generosity. And this might seem counterintuitive, but wealthy parents teach their kids that giving money away is actually essential to building and maintaining wealth. Not out of guilt, but out of strategic understanding. When you give, you create goodwill. You build relationships. You signal that you're not desperate or fearful about money. A person who's genuinely generous with their resources is rarely in financial crisis because that generosity comes from a mindset of abundance, not scarcity. Wealthy people teach their kids to be generous strategically while still building wealth. It's not either or, it's both. The 12th secret is about keeping learning relevant to money and business. Rich parents prioritize financial education in a way that most parents don't. They buy books about investing, economics, business. They have conversations about financial news. They expose their kids to entrepreneurs and successful people. They make sure their children understand that financial literacy is as important as reading and math. Most schools don't teach this, so wealthy parents fill that gap by making it part of the family conversation. Think about how much time schools dedicate to teaching history or literature, which are important, sure. But they dedicate almost no time to teaching students how to manage money, invest, understand economics, or start businesses. It's actually kind of shocking when you think about it. So wealthy parents are essentially homeschooling their kids in financial literacy. They're reading books about Warren Buffett. They're talking about the stock market at dinner. They're going to investor conferences. They're introducing their kids to successful business people. By the time these kids are in high school, they've absorbed more practical financial knowledge than most adults have in their entire lives. And that knowledge compounds. It leads to better decisions throughout their life. Here's the 13th secret. Rich parents teach their kids about risk differently than average parents. Average parents often teach their kids to be risk-averse. Don't fail, play it safe, get a stable job. But wealthy parents teach their kids to understand different types of risk and to take calculated risks. They teach them that calculated risks often have the best payoff, and that being too conservative is actually riskier because it guarantees you'll never build significant wealth. They teach their kids to distinguish between reckless risk and intelligent risk. A reckless risk is betting your entire net worth on a cryptocurrency pump. An intelligent risk is investing in the stock market over decades or starting a business in an area where you have expertise. The 14th secret is about the importance of your network and relationships. Wealthy parents teach their kids from an early age that who you know matters a lot. They involve their kids in adult conversations, business events, networking opportunities. They teach them how to talk to people from different backgrounds and industries. They emphasize relationship building because they understand that most significant opportunities in life come through relationships, not open job applications. Most kids don't learn this from school. They're not taught how to network or how to build genuine relationships with people who can create opportunities for them. And here's the thing. Networking isn't about being fake or transactional. It's about genuinely connecting with people, learning from them. And creating mutual value. Wealthy parents understand this and they model it for their kids. They introduce them to successful people. They teach them to ask good questions. They teach them that relationships are built over time and that you should treat everyone with respect regardless of their current status. When a kid grows up with this mindset, they naturally build a strong network of relationships, and opportunities flow to people with strong networks. It's not about luck. It's about preparation meeting opportunity through relationships. So when it comes time to find a job or start a business or make an investment, these kids already have people they can reach out to. The 15th secret is about insurance and risk management. Rich parents teach their kids about insurance earlier than most people think about it. They explain what insurance actually does. It's not an investment. It's a tool that protects your assets. They teach their kids to understand different types of insurance, what's worth insuring, what's not, and how insurance fits into an overall financial strategy. Most people buy insurance without really understanding what they're buying or why. Wealthy people understand insurance intimately and teach this to their kids. The 16th secret is about the power of saying no. Rich parents teach their kids that saying no is actually one of the most powerful financial tools you have. No to bad jobs, no to unnecessary purchases, no to business deals that don't make sense. No to relationships that drain your resources. Warren Buffett talks about this constantly, that his investment strategy is really about saying no to the vast majority of opportunities so he can say yes to the ones that really matter. Wealthy people teach their kids that your time and money are your most precious resources, and protecting them means saying no to things that don't align with your priorities. The 17th secret is about understanding inflation and how it affects your wealth. Most people don't really think about inflation. They think of money as having a fixed value. But wealthy parents teach their kids that money loses purchasing power over time due to inflation. This is why you can't just keep money in a savings account earning 0.01% interest. You need your money to work for you at a rate that at least matches inflation. This understanding completely changes how you approach saving and investing. You realize that doing nothing is actually a choice that costs you money. The 18th secret is about goal setting and backward planning. Rich parents teach their kids how to set financial goals and then work backward to figure out what they need to do to achieve them. If you want to buy a house for $300,000 in 10 years, how much do you need to save monthly? What investments need to happen? What career decisions support this goal? This backward planning mentality is totally different from the approach most people take, which is just hoping things work out financially. Wealthy people are intentional about their financial future and teach this intentionality to their kids. Most people think about their financial future in super vague terms. They want to be rich someday. They hope to retire comfortably. They wish they had more money, but they never actually calculate what that means or what they need to do to get there. Wealthy parents don't work this way. They set specific goals with numbers and timelines. Then they do the math. They figure out exactly what needs to happen to make it real. It's like the difference between saying, I want to get fit, and saying, I want to weigh 180 pounds by June 1st. One is a vague hope. The other is a specific goal with a timeline that you can work backward from. Wealthy kids grow up thinking about finances this way. They set goals. They calculate what's required. They execute. The 19th secret is about understanding that passive income is the holy grail of wealth. Rich parents teach their kids from an early age that the goal isn't to work forever. The goal is to create situations where money comes in without active work. Rental income, dividend income, royalties, interest, all of it. They teach their kids to start thinking about how they can build passive income streams as early as possible. Even a teenager can start with this. Maybe it's buying a dividend-yielding stock. Maybe it's creating digital content that generates income. Maybe it's something else. The point is they're introduced to the concept early and they understand that this is actually possible. I mean, think about what passive income actually means. You do the work once and get paid repeatedly. That's the opposite of the standard employment model where you work once and get paid once. Every hour you work, you get an hour's worth of pay. That's fine, but it doesn't scale. With passive income, you build something that generates income while you sleep. A rental property generates rent every month without you actively working. A dividend-yielding investment generates quarterly income. An online course you created generates sales years after you built it. Wealthy people teach their kids to think about how they can create these types of income streams because they understand that this is how you truly get wealthy. You can't work more hours than there are in a day, so there's a ceiling on how much you can earn from active income. But passive income has no ceiling. And the 20th secret, which might be the most important one, is that rich parents teach their kids that money isn't evil or shameful or something you should feel guilty about. They talk about money openly. They discuss their own financial wins and failures. They don't shield their kids from financial realities. They use financial discussions as teaching moments. Most parents avoid talking about money with their kids entirely. They think it's inappropriate or that the kids are too young. But wealthy parents understand that secrecy and silence around money is what creates financial dysfunction. When money is discussed openly and honestly, kids grow up with a healthy relationship to it. They see money as a neutral tool that can be used wisely or poorly, and they develop the skills to use it wisely. Now, here's what's really wild about all of these secrets. They're not actually secrets to people who grew up wealthy. These are just normal conversations that happen around the dinner table in wealthy households. But to people who didn't grow up around this way of thinking, they feel revolutionary. And that's the entire point. The wealth gap isn't primarily about income. It's about knowledge and mindset. Two people earning the exact same income will end up in vastly different financial situations depending on what they were taught about money when they were young. Rich parents understand this, so they prioritize financial education for their kids from an incredibly early age. They don't wait for schools to teach it. They don't assume their kids will figure it out. They actively teach these principles because they understand that these are the foundations of everything their kids will build financially. If you're a parent listening to this, you have the power to change the trajectory of your child's financial life by teaching them what I just covered. You don't need to be rich to do this. You just need to be intentional. You can have conversations with your kids about money, opportunity cost, assets and liabilities, compound interest, negotiation, business, risk, insurance, all of it. These conversations don't require having a lot of money. They just require understanding that financial literacy is important and worth teaching. And if you're not a parent yet, this information is equally valuable to you. Because if you didn't grow up learning these things, you can teach them to yourself right now. You can start thinking about money as a tool instead of something you just receive. You can start calculating opportunity costs. You can start understanding the difference between good debt and bad debt. You can start building multiple income streams. You can start negotiating. You can start thinking about compounding in time. You can start learning about business. You can start being intentional about your financial future instead of just reacting to whatever life throws at you. The difference between people who build wealth and people who stay stuck isn't intelligence, it's knowledge and application. And you now have access to the knowledge. The question is whether you're going to apply it.